Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It's your boy, Pigskin Pete. Happy Friday to everybody. So, most of you have already heard the news that Chase Brice, the backup quarterback for the Clemson Tigers, has put his name into the transfer portal. Now, many of you fans probably saw this coming if you follow the Tigers like I do. No surprise at all. He's a graduate, so wherever he transfers to, he will have immediate eligibility, will not have to sit out a year. And because he was redshirted his freshman year, he still has 2 years of eligibility left, which is great for him and it's great for the team that he might go to. And I was having a conversation with my father-in-law a few weeks ago about Chase Brice. We both figured that Chase Brice was most likely going to transfer at the end of this season. Obviously, because of the talent we have at quarterback there already. Trevor Lawrence will be back next year. DJ Uiagalelei is coming in as a hotshot prospect as a true freshman next year. And also we have Tyson Pumachan on the staff, who was a four-star dual threat prospect. Big kid, a lot like Cam Newton. I don't know how, he's like 6'4", 6'5", 220 something pounds. He's about the same size as Trevor Lawrence. Big kid. Big arm, great runner. Anyway, so a lot of quarterback talent on Clemson's team. And, of course, Chase Brice, also very, very talented dual threat quarterback. So in discussing where do we think he would fit well, or which teams do we think would want him, or where would he want to go, all of these sort of things. The first thing that popped into my mind, and mind you, this is about 3 weeks ago. This is before Georgia got Jamie Newman as a transfer from Wake Forest. The first thing that popped in my head was Georgia. Why? He's from Georgia. Jake Fromm's leaving. We know that. So, I made some troll, at least what I was considered to be doing was trolling some Georgia fans during the season this past season. I was laughing and making fun of them, making fun of Jake Fromm, really, and saying our backup quarterback, Chase Brice, is better than Jake Fromm. I actually think that that's true, okay? I think he's got a bigger, better arm. Well, I know he does. He's got a more live arm than Jake Fromm does. And as far as athletic ability and making plays with his legs, it's not even close. Chase Brice is a true dual threat quarterback. Now, Clemson likes to run the quarterback a lot anyway, even in situations where they probably shouldn't. This is a staple of Tony Elliott's offense at Clemson. He loves to run the quarterback. He'll even take a guy like Trevor Lawrence, who's not known as a running quarterback, and run him a lot. Some of us like that about Tony Elliott. Some of us don't. I prefer to see the ball go in the hands of the world-class running back more than I would seeing Trevor Lawrence run the ball. That's a whole nother story and a whole nother video. You guys already know how I feel about that. Anyways, I think that even with Jamie Newman coming in, Georgia would still be an interesting place for Chase Brice to land. So we'll see. Another interesting place, Mississippi State and Mike Leach. We already know that Mike Leach has his eye on this transfer portal. And based on the kind of offense that Mike Leach runs and the kind of offense or the kind of players he currently has on the team, I still think it's going to take him a couple years to really do what he wants to do, recruit the guys that he wants to recruit. But in the meantime, we know that Mike Leach loves snatching players from the transfer portal. This is what he did with Gardner Minshew a few years ago, and we saw how that turned out. That ended up being the best year he had at Washington State, I think, as far as offensive production wins. I think they won 11 games that year or something, if you include the bowl game. So that was a great year for them. Anyway, I think he's got his eye on the transfer portal. What does Mike Leach need at quarterback? Number one, accuracy. This is the most important aspect of a Mike Leach air raid offense. Accuracy. For anybody who doesn't know, I'm sure most of you do know, without getting into the specifics of it, basically the air raid system just means we throw it a crap load. They throw it like 80% of the time. They do very, very little running the ball, unless it's the quarterback running, extending plays with his legs. Two things that Chase Brice is good at: accuracy, extending plays with his legs. I think he'd be a very, very interesting fit in a Mike Leach offense. Some of the teams out on the West Coast are also interesting. Obviously, Jacob Eason's going into the draft. Washington needs a quarterback. Oregon, I think he would be, as far as going to a team that could possibly contend for a playoff spot, certainly Oregon right now is the class of the Pac-12. And that's an offense that has a lot of weapons. So would he be willing to go out to a place like Oregon and compete for the job, go to a place like Washington, compete for a job, and go from Georgia, where he's grown up, to spending the last 3 years in the state of South Carolina at Clemson University, and then traveling all the way out to the West Coast? I don't know. I can't get in Chase Brice's head as far as that goes. It is much more common now to see players, travel all the way across the country for a better opportunity. So I wouldn't be surprised in as far as that goes. Probably the most interesting, and I'm going to go ahead and say, listen, I have nothing to base this on, but I think there's one team out there in particular in major Power 5 football that if I were them, I would already be on the phone with Chase Brice. And I wouldn't be surprised if this team has already contacted Chase Brice just since yesterday's news that he was transferring. That team is the almighty Maize and Blue Michigan Wolverines and the Fighting Jim Harbaughs. Why? Shea Patterson's gone. They need a quarterback bad. This has been the biggest problem with Michigan since Jim Harbaugh took the job. They seem to have a top 10 defense, sometimes even top 5 defense nationally, year in, year out. They've got great players on the outside. They've got great guys in the trenches. Most of the time they have a really good running back. The thing that's been missing for Jim Harbaugh the entire time he's been there has been a quarterback that can get it done. And judging from, or at least from what I know about who they have on their roster right now, they ain't going to get it done again this year unless they go get somebody out of the transfer portal. So this would be a good situation for both Michigan, who many people think that Michigan is possibly just that one position away from contending in the Big Ten with Ohio State and possibly making a push into the playoffs. So I think it's a good fit. Be a good fit for Chase Brice. He'll have a lot of eyeballs on him. He'll have the chance to have a lot of skill around him and show what he can do on a national stage. Obviously, it would be a good situation for Michigan having a player of the caliber of Chase Brice. Listen, you guys may think I'm just being a homer about Chase Brice. I'm telling you, this is a really good quarterback. If it weren't for the fact that how good Clemson's quarterback roster is, he could start at most Power 5 schools, period. And I think he's going to have a good year where if he goes to the right situation, I think Michigan's probably the best fit for him as far as the mutual benefit between the players, the player and the team that he goes to. Some other teams, listen, there's a bunch of teams in the ACC, but does he really want to go to the ACC and compete against his old team in Clemson? Probably not, unless it was maybe in the Coastal Division. Miami's got a couple of quarterbacks that I personally think Chase Brice is better than both of them. Obviously, Wake Forest just lost Jamie Newman. They need a quarterback, but does he really want to go in the same division as Clemson? Probably not. He definitely would get the starting job there immediately, though. So if that's what he's looking for, he could do that. So anyway, there's a bunch of teams in the ACC where he possibly could transfer to and start immediately. But I still think he'd have a better opportunity to go somewhere outside of the ACC. I don't want to see him go in the ACC either. I don't want to play against Chase Brice. Big fan of his. But anyway, wherever he goes, we'll see. I'll be wishing him luck. He's probably the most popular. Well, he's not probably. He definitely is the most popular backup quarterback to ever come through Clemson, South Carolina, at least in the modern era. Many people credit him with being able to play for a national championship last year and win it. Or 2 years ago now that we're into the 2020 season. You know what I'm talking about. The game against Syracuse in Clemson, the Clemson almost lost. He had a couple of really big plays that saved that game at the end for Clemson. And that may have been the difference between them being able to make the playoffs and go on and do what they did, beating Alabama by 4 touchdowns. Anyways, let me know if you're a Clemson fan, let me know where you'd like to see him go. if you're a fan of another team out there that needs a quarterback or would like to get Chase Brice or whatever, let me know that too. Just type it down in the comment section. I'd appreciate it. All right, guys. I'll see you guys very, very soon. Pigskin Pete is checking out.